Everyone wants to take their business, their skills, to the next level. Small and mid-sized business owners have exceptional insight into how to do this. They endure and thrive because they find ways to overcome the challenges that come their way, and they can teach us valuable lessons to apply to our own companies and lives. Stephen Nooner, founder and owner of Alkali, a company with a unique process that helps businesses more effectively buy and manage their insurance programs. And Bob Gibbons, builder of Riata Commercial Realty, a real estate advisor and tenant advocate, are two prominent Metroplex businessmen who, along with their weekly guests, will ask their and your probing questions, finding impactful solutions that will help you reach for the next level. Here are your hosts, Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons.
Welcome to The Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business. This is your host, Bob Gibbons.
And Stephen Nooner. And we have a great show for you today. Jim Dunkerley of First Funding is with us. Before we get started, for a first-time guest, we'd like to talk to you guys. What is Conversations That Propel Business really mean? Our show is really here to facilitate conversations where we can all learn from each other and grow. Bob and I, believe it or not, don't have all the answers, and so we bring our guests on for us and the community so we can all share, grow together.
Speak for yourself. I know a lot.
They already know that about you. Speaking of learning from others, we like to start off with some short, pithy wisdom, and Jim provided a really great quote, and it is courtesy of Jim and John Wayne. A great combo there. Life is tough, but it's tougher when you're stupid.
I love that one.
That's a great one.
Now, what would only be better is if you could say that in John Wayne's voice.
Yes,
Well,
Well,
I'm
I'll
not
tell
quite
you.
tough enough.
No, I
you don't
couldn't do
want
it.
me to try.
But I think it's really funny, especially we work, with so many entrepreneurs and business owners, and everyone's trying to figure out their next big move, their next brilliant move. But no one ever thinks about, hey, let's just avoid being stupid.
And
doing
yet,
something stupid.
whenever you think about it, we're all stupid in different situations or on different subjects.
Some of us more than others.
Well, more frequently perhaps, but for a more extended period of time. But moving right along, well, I want to introduce you to Jim Dunkerley. He's the president and CEO and founder of First Funding, Inc. They've been in business for about 12 years and have 8 employees, all in the Dallas area. But they do conduct business nationally. They have an office here in the Dallas area, of course. And you can find them on the web and learn more about them at firstfundingusa.com. Welcome, Jim. We're glad you're here.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We like to start off every guest with gratitude. So what are you thankful for?
Mostly my family, because frankly, I couldn't have done the business, built the business that I've done with my partners, but without the support of my family, and particularly my wife and my son. So that makes a big difference in your life, especially if you're trying to start something from scratch.
Oh, imagine the amount of time it takes is overwhelming.
True, but coming home and having somebody say you can do it, you hope you can, but coming home and having that reinforcement makes a big, big difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah, I think when I started my company, my wife was probably more determined that I was going to succeed than even I was.
I think the same was true for my wife.
She might still be.
It was mostly because we had to.
Yeah, I mean, when you put all your eggs in that basket,
Yes.
you got to make it happen.
Or as one guy said, well, when you light the bridge on fire, you better get across.
Absolutely. All right, so let's get into the meat of this. So, your company is First Funding, Inc. You describe yourself as a warehouse financing company for the mortgage industry.
Yeah.
That just went way over my head and probably everybody else's.
I read it about 3 times, and I was like, okay, I think I got 2%.
Okay.
So give us some help.
Well, the simple thing is I'm a bank without having depositors. Okay. I'm in what we refer to as a non-chartered financial company.
Okay.
Banks get their money from depositors by, deposit accounts. We get our money from large credit facilities and bank facilities. And then we turn around and lend it out that way. That's how we fund ourselves.
Okay.
But the interesting thing is we don't lend money on warehouses. We actually lend money on residential mortgages. The mortgage itself is an asset. It's an account receivable, a note receivable. And so when a customer of ours wants to be a mortgage banker, which is different than being a mortgage broker, they have to have their own money if they're a bank, if they're a chartered bank, or they have to get the money from somebody, a warehouse lender. And the warehouse is intended to reference the fact that we provide short-term financing for them to, quote, warehouse the loan for a short period of time, hold it in inventory for a short period of time before they then sell it in the secondary market, hence the reason for the term warehouse. Like I said, we don't lend money on warehouses, although we do occasionally get a request for it. It's pretty interesting. We have to explain to them, we don't do commercial loans.
Google search at work, huh?
That's right. We provide, financing so that a customer can actually grow from being a broker into being a banker, and then grow beyond us into a more traditional correspondent mortgage banker facility.
Okay, so just to be sure I'm clear, you borrow money from someone else, and then lend that same money to a mortgage banker or broker.
A broker so that he can become a banker. Because if you're a banker, you're lending the money. If you're a broker, you're just arranging the two people to get together.
Okay, so a broker is not your client,
No.
but they're a good prospect for
They're a
you
prospect
if
for
they
us.
want to become the banker.
That's correct.
Okay, so the distinction again between broker and banker is the broker's just the intermediary that's collecting a commission. The
correct.
banker's putting some money that
It's
he or
his-
she has
That's his
at
money
risk.
because they're responsible to us just like we're responsible. And a bank is responsible to their depositors the
Right.
same way. They borrow money from their depositors.
Right.
And you can have a broker and a banker at the same time?
They can be both a broker and banker, but they can't be broker and banker on the same loan. Okay.
Okay.
They have to choose one or the other.
Is that because of the whole fallout, or is
No,
that okay?
that's just licensing.
Okay.
It's a normal occurrence. You can't broker something where you're the lender
Okay.
because
Conflict of
you're one of the. No, it's not a conflict. You're one of the two parties. You're already one of the two parties.
Gotcha.
So if you're a broker, you're arranging two parties to get together.
Okay.
But if you're
one of those parties.
you're already
Makes
one of the
sense,
parties.
man.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So how'd you get into that business? I mean, it seems like a very unique.
Niche-y.
Well,
Yeah.
it is very niche-y, and it was kind of a long way around. But I started a long time ago as a commercial lender. I migrated into being a CFO for a home builder. Then we sold that company, and after that company was sold, I went into the business of managing a regional mortgage company here in Dallas. And it was a really great company to work with, and we did a lot of business. But as we transitioned from being a broker to a banker, we found that we needed ever more warehouse financing, because to be a correspondent, to be a banker, you had to have that facility. And we needed more and more, and I wanted more and more support, and I just wasn't getting the support I needed from a bank. Because the bank really is just in the business of putting out money. I wanted to create a warehouse lender that was in the business of A, putting out money, but B, also providing a service, a support service, so that the me's of the world, when I was a mortgage operator, that I could actually get the support that I was looking for.
What kind of support do they need?
Reporting, management tools, something other than just the actual money itself. How did I manage that facility? Who's going to help me monitor it? Who's going to watch over and tell me when I'm getting too aggressive? I need that kind of facility, because if I'm a mortgage banker, I'm focused on production, because production is where I earn my money. I need those extra support services if I'm new at mortgage banking, because I got to learn the ropes. What does it take to manage the facility?
So it's a lot of risk management.
It's risk management in its purest sense, actually.
And it's their risk, but it's also your risk since you're the one lending to them.
Yes, because you have any lender, I don't care if they're small or large, is going to look at a transaction as if something goes wrong the day after. What do they do? And that's the ultimate question of risk management. Once you do that and you say, well, I can manage that risk, then you're ready to move forward.
Sure.
And they may do it once, and then they'll do it again and again and again and again. And eventually they learn how to anticipate things. They learn how to predict things based on trends and past experiences. I mean, how many times do we think about what we do when we get in a car, for example? You get in a car, you pull out your key, you turn it, and you drive, right? Well, the first time you drove, you needed somebody to tell you, put the key in,
Right.
put your blinker on, all those things. So this is very much the same way.
Okay. So what's the biggest challenge in your business?
Frankly, it's probably constant explanation to customers, but mostly to prospects, that it's not all about price. And the best example I can give that most people would experience is if you go into a fine restaurant, you expect to pay more, okay? You're only disappointed if the service level is not what you expected, right? Or if the environment's not what you expected. But you expect to pay more. You can get a meal at McDonald's,
Right.
and it may be $1. But you're going to a restaurant for an experience. You're going to someplace that you expected a higher level of service. So it's
And so I'm very curious about that. So, I mean, it sounds like risk management, you leveraging technology. I mean, in a very commoditized business, you're really driving to have a strong value proposition other than the money and the loan and what the rate is going to be.
correct. We're really a technology company that just happens to lend money. We place a lot of emphasis on technology and technology tools. We look at it as a multiplier of not only our staff, but also our customers' staff's abilities. And that's how we're able to do so much. We lend a lot of money, many millions of dollars every month. And we do that nationwide with only 8 people.
Wow.
It's amazing.
It is pretty impressive if you stand back and look at it. I mean, a lot of banks that are in the warehouse lending business, some of which are competitors to me, they have much larger staffs, but they have a much more vanilla technology. They don't necessarily use technology as a levering of their full-time equivalent staff. They use it to manage the inflow of information to their balance sheet, to their general ledger, which is a good tool for them because as a bank, they're in the risk management business for their own assets. I'm looking to not only do that for my assets, but also provide the support for our customers.
So you mentioned technology a few times. So are you telling me that you have created proprietary software or something that you make available to your clients?
Very much so, yes. And we looked and looked and looked, and there are some systems that are pervasive in the warehouse lending, community. But what we found is that it didn't go far enough. It didn't do what we needed. It wasn't precise, not only for our customers, but for us. And so we built it from scratch. And actually, I'm on my second iteration. The first one I did was fairly rudimentary, but even still, it was ahead of its time. And it was entirely web-based. The newest version that we have is not only web-based, it's entirely browser-based. So, you don't have to have anything installed on your computer, which most of my competitors who are out there in the marketplace, big and small, have a software that they purchase from a third party, and it's a good piece of software. It just doesn't do what we need it to do. So we had to build from scratch.
Tell me, in your business, I mean, looking back, what was the scariest risk you took at a time? It seemed really scary, but then ended up maybe not being all that you thought it'd be.
It was interesting. Relative to first funding was, you put together a business plan, you start a business, you go, I'm going to be in business. By golly, I'm going to do it. And then you go out and you start getting the things you need for your business plan. In my case, I needed a large credit facility from a bank. And I went in and I asked for a $5 million line. It was a big line. And, today it's like nothing.
Right.
But, the first time I got that approval, and I was just nervous. I was sweating, just really nervous. And they said, okay. And it was only at that point that I realized, holy cow.
Wow.
Now I got to do what I said I can do. And I was really kind of terrified because, I was confident that I could do it, but I never really went, oh, it's just me. Because I was the only employee at that time. I was chief cook and bottle washer. I had to do it all. I had to sell it, I had to fund it, I had to get it sold. I had to account for it. I had everything. I had to do it all.
So how many years ago was that?
That was 13 years ago, almost 13 years
what
ago.
What would a normal line be today?
For us?
Yeah.
20 to 50.
Dang.
So
5 to 10
and we have
times.
but we have multiples of those. So
What do you do when you have a successful business and all of a sudden you start losing clients to your competition? After the break, we'll learn how Jim turned that breakdown into a breakthrough, just like we're going to with Bob's computer.
And now, Confessions of a Recovering Landlord.
This is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty, and I am your recovering landlord. After 20 years as a landlord, I now use that experience only for the benefit of companies that lease or buy office buildings and warehouses. Today's confession: never exercise your renewal option. Now, I know that sounds crazy, right? Why would you get a renewal option if you don't ever plan to use it? Well, a renewal option is really just a reservation for your space, which prevents the landlord from leasing your space out to someone else, leasing it out from under you. Some options actually bind you to an extended term before you even know what the rental rate will be. But that rental option was created 3, 5, or even 10 years ago when you signed your lease and may not work for you today. Fortunately, there is a way, an easy way, to renew your lease without the risk of exercising your renewal option. To learn what that is, please contact me at www.texastenantrep.com. Again, that's texastenantrep.com.
Want to create a breakthrough in your business or personal life? Here's a tip. Stop shopping for insurance and insurance agents. Begin looking for a way to more effectively buy and manage your insurance. At Alkali, that is exactly what we provide. The freedom you create by changing this mindset alone will make an impact. Plus, you can stop listening to all the insurance commercials on TV and radio, unless they're funny, of course. Are you an insurance novice or just want to take things to the next level? Knowledge is power. Come join us for the single most important class that you never took in business school. We have the following upcoming classes that we teach through Collin College and the Small Business Development Center. Thursday, September 24th, Protecting Your Business 202. Thursday, October 15th, Healthcare Reform. What the health is going on? Thursday, November 19th, Protecting Your Business 101. To sign up or learn more, visit us at alkaliservices.com. That's Alkali, ALKALI, services with an S.
Welcome back to The Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business. This is your host, Bob Gibbons.
And Stephen Nooner.
And we are back with Jim Dunkerley of First Funding, Inc. And we're learning about his business and what does warehouse lending mean in the mortgage business. So, Stephen, take it away.
Yeah, well, we're going to move into the high-low segment now, which is one of my personal favorite segments. It's something we've adopted from Zig Ziglar. He had what was called the Wheel of Life. And there were 7 areas: career, social, financial, family, physical, mental, and spiritual. And they all made a wheel, and if any of the areas went low, then it's hard to run down the highway at top speed with a flat tire. So in the last year, couple years, looking back, what would you say has been your biggest high?
Hitting a peak of production, which we did, which was really nice. And it wasn't me that drove it. It was my staff and the processes and systems that we built.
Love it.
And that was really a big point of pride for me to step back and say, it worked. It really worked.
It's validation.
Yeah,
You're
it was.
actually a business owner.
Yeah, and it was kind
Not owned
of
by a
it was
business.
kind of cool. It was the first time that we had funded over $500 million in a month.
Wow, in 1 month?
In 1 month.
Wow.
And we've done that several times since then. But the first time we did it was enormous.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
So how do you, I mean, you have that realization, you're excited, you're happy and feeling good about yourself. How do you keep that going?
Frankly, you meet with your staff, you meet with your team, and we say, all right, let's do it again. And how do we do that? What do you need? And the one thing I try to do all the time is check with my people, both operations and sales, and they do go together. They're truly, tied. They're symbiotic.
Amen.
And I ask them, what tools do you need? What do you need? What can I get you? I look at that as one of my jobs. I'm obviously strategic planning, but that's one of my jobs is to make sure that they have the tools they need and then let them do their job. Obviously, that one time when we went over, now they do it all the time, but they did their job and it was awesome.
How about a low?
Not in the last year, but a long time ago, before I started this company and way back in my career, I wasn't married very long. My son had not been born yet, and I got let go from the bank because the bank was downsizing and they were letting people go, and I just happened to be. Now, fortunately, I wasn't in the first group. I was, one of the last ones. But when you lose your job, having to go home to your wife and say, "Honey, this was a bad day," and then have her say, "It'll be okay," that was helpful.
Turns
But
your worst day into maybe one of your better days
well,
anyway.
it was nice to have that comfort. It was nice to know that, she's there with me. But, it's still, you feel like you let them down. And, because you got to be, you're supposed to be the guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was tough. It was tough. But you make it through it. And you get up the next day and you say, I'm going to go try again.
I got laid off 11 years ago, and I'd been in the real estate business 20 years and never been without a job, which is pretty unusual in the real estate business. And I called my wife and said, "Hey, where are you?" And she's like, "Well, I'm over here running there with the kids, whatever." And I said, "Well, do you want to meet?" And by the time we'd met, she's like, "You got laid off, didn't you?" And I was like, "Oh man." That was a horrible day, and you're right, huge failure. And as men, especially, I think we feel like we're the providers, blah blah blah, and it just felt like a huge letdown. And but yeah, she was fantastic.
Yeah, made a difference, didn't it?
Huge difference.
Yeah.
And then it spurred me to become an entrepreneur and start my own company.
Yeah.
So, and you ultimately did as well. So sometimes the worst turns into the best.
Especially when you look at it in hindsight, you learn something. We're all a product of our past experiences, good and bad.
Well, let's explore. I'm sorry.
No, we'll have that teed up the next section, right?
Yeah, very much did, because
Experience impact.
the thing I was going to ask you next was what's the biggest breakdown in your business that you've had that's turned into a breakthrough?
We were losing a lot of customers to competitors for various reasons, and frankly, this is something that reemphasized to me the fact that you can't ignore your competition. You need to study your business as well as you need to study your competition. Frankly, be a student of your business. And for us, it spurred us to actually step back, examine our business. What could we do to be competitive to the point to where we could reverse that trend? And we took what was a single strata of service and made it into now 5 different stratas of service. So it empowered the customer to choose what level of service that they wanted to have. So instead of just offering, cheeseburger, that's all you get, it's cheeseburger. We now offer cheeseburger, hamburger, chicken salad, tuna sandwich, whatever you want. It allows the customer to make the choice. It empowers the customer. And that's what most of our customers want. I mean, if you think about the guy who's a mortgage broker converting to being a mortgage banker, he's the epitome of an entrepreneur. He wants to control his own destiny. And we were challenged to develop the tools to allow him to do more of that. And it turned out to be one of the greatest things we ever did.
Well, no, and so it sounds like, what you've really done is created value by helping people go through those, with the show's the next level,
Right.
helping people kind of break through and transition through those
Right.
roles. And I think it's really powerful because so often, I know even in our business, what a 10-employee company needs versus a 250, a 500, 1,000, the same tools don't work for every single
No, they don't.
place they're at. And so it's really neat to be able to help people through that.
It also brought more larger companies to us in terms of people that want to stay with us because they can manage their risk, get the benefit of the tools we have, but still not have to be in the super high service level that we were compelling them to be. And we were doing that really somewhat because we didn't have a system to support it, but also because of my risk concerns. And I stepped back. This analysis forced me to step back and develop those different service levels. And the upshot was, A, we retained our customers, B, we reversed that trend, and C, we expanded our potential customer base.
Nice.
Now, did you have any customers that whenever you came to them and said, hey, we've got these different service levels, and what you've already said is a commodity business, did they kind of scratch their heads and look at you like you were crazy and say, what are you talking about? This is a commodity business. All you guys are the same.
No, really not. Because what we were doing was reacting not only to the competitive pressure from other warehouse lenders, but also to the demands of our customers for ever more ability to control on their side. And the way we explained it to them is, hey, we listened to you. We did what you wanted. We made it to where you can control more. Now, in exchange for that, we're going to monitor it. We're going to provide you the tools so that you can monitor your own proficiency. and we're going to agree on some basic qualifications. You have to have a certain number of errors or fewer in order to stay in that lower service level to where you don't have to have as much shepherding of your files. But by and large, it's been a tremendous response. Also, the secondary market, which is something we haven't talked about, those are the guys that actually buy the loans that my customers originate. So they become critical as well. But for providing these this stratification of services, it actually brought the secondary market investors to where they started examining the quality of the files that were coming through our platform versus just the homogeneous service level of our competitors, and they realized this may be something that we can harness as well to help our account executives broaden their own customer base.
So your technology allows your customers to more easily resell their product into the secondary market.
And it provided an additional differentiation tool for the secondary market investors to market to the same customer base.
Very cool.
Very cool. We have a lot going on. I mean, technology, risk management,
and a little thing called money.
And money, yeah. How do you stay on track? Where do you have to focus most to stay on track?
You stay in touch with your people. You set up a structure, not a rigid structure in terms of, everybody's you go through a big chain of command. It's really not. We try to keep our structure very flat. We have a small group of people, so that's relatively easy. But each person has a fairly well-defined role, and it's play your position and pass is what my partner a lot of times likes to say. And she's very good at saying that. She's an attorney, and she says, play your position and pass. Don't try to drive the ball all the way to the goal line because you're not going to make it in all the time. And so those are good words of advice.
So speaking of advice, one of the things we like each guest to give us is sort of your top 3 insights or ideas for how to run your business well that can be transferred to other people.
Well, I mentioned them a little earlier. Be a student of your business. Study your business. Study your competition. And frankly, keep in touch with your own staff. Listen to them. You got to study your business through the tools. You got to study your competition through your customers as well as, listening to your sales staff. And then you need to also manage your people. Keep them motivated, because what you don't want to do is have a situation where you have to constantly train your people over and over and over again because they're revolving.
Yeah, that's cost a lot of money. Speaking of money, well, appreciate it. We like to have a wrap-up question that we ask everybody. It's a little bit of a thinking question, so I'm sure you're ready for it. But if we're sitting together here 3 years from now and we're to look back to today, what has to happen in your life, professionally, personally, for you to feel satisfied with the progress you've made?
Boy, that's a big question. I don't know. Where do I need to be? It's not about making money, although, obviously we all enjoy those benefits.
It's a scoreboard.
Yeah, well,
and you have to have it to live.
True, and, people have told me it's evil, but it makes things a lot easier. That's a nice thing, but I want to have people come back to me and say, you changed my business. You allowed me to grow. You allowed me to build into something that I wasn't capable of doing before. And I want to hear that from the people that I work with.
That's huge.
That is huge.
Jim, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it and enjoyed your insights.
Thank you.
This has been The Next Level, conversations that propel business. And you can go to our website at nextlevelshow.com. It is up and running now. And you can go there to see the recordings for previous shows, also see who's coming up in the future. And if you want to learn more about Jim's business, go to firstfundingusa.com. And we'll see you next week.
Looking forward to it. Have a great week.
Thank you.
You have been listening to The Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business with Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons. Join us every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. for more prolific conversations that will take your business to the next level.